this is gonna be the start, and I'll make sure that these intros are super complicated and fancy. There we go. Look at that. I'm going to be talking about Heroes of the Dark. Yeah. So, no, I don't want to save the changes. There we go. Anyways, I noticed in the Discord that there was a video posted saying top 5 heroes for new gamers in this game to play. And some of the heroes he mentioned were good picks, and some of them were not. I will go through the heroes that he chose and why they are good or bad. So, first off, as you can see, I'm a bit further into the game than he was. He had like 20,000 power, which is pretty good for beginning, but once you play the game a bit longer, you get more power, so to speak, and your heroes end up looking like this. And he mentioned some great heroes for free to play as well as newer players to invest into. As you can see the ones that I've invested in, as well as ones that I plan on. But the first one he mentioned on his list was Isara. Now, as you can see, I have her at level 45, which is pretty decent level for the area I'm in. I'm currently in area 7, so you should not compare where I am with where you are. But for new players, she is amazing. She has the passive bonus of decreasing the cost of making werewolf crystals, which is very useful for cheap leveling up, as well as developing her as a character herself, because she uses werewolf crystals. But also, you should also note that she has, as a catalyst, these ranged attacks, which make her very good. Her poison affects heroes over time, so she deals very good damage over time. And when you rank her up, she becomes more and more useful. But the thing is, when you first start off with her, she'll have these first 3. So, Refiner's Tricks, Death Brew, and Ace Up Her Sleeve, which is every 3rd basic attack, she throws a vial at the furthest one, and that deals poison to a small area, which can be very useful if you have no characters that can hit the back row up until up or at all. Now, she is very good, and for being ranked number 5, I say that's a pretty good spot. The next one he mentioned, I will not be naming names because I don't want to put shame to names, but he mentioned Lacroix. Now, Lacroix, I recently ranked up today for the level up event, but as you can see, he is level 32 for me. And he was mentioned that he has great party synergy with this bonus to energy regeneration. But in reality, his stats are terrible. Like, if I am to unequip all his items, you will see that in general he has a very slow attack speed. In general as well, he takes up a useful slot, and his abilities don't synergize well with other people's abilities. Look at this. Look at this. Attack speed 61. Attack power 471. Crit chance of 6.8. Low health with 3000. Energy regeneration. Yeah, he's got pretty decent energy on hits. Pretty okay. But the thing is, that doesn't make up for the fact that his abilities are not that great. The backstage pass only affects the first time he takes damage, which is not okay if you think about it. With some of these passives, you want them to be long term. And if only the first attack stuns for 2 seconds, you can get more benefit out of putting Khalil in, which has his ultimate, which stuns people for 2 seconds as well, which is much better than Lacroix. Also, his ultimate is very small area of effect, but deals massive amount of damage, and reduces energy regeneration of the people by half. That would be useful, except enemies can just move out of the area of effect, and that happens quite a lot with Lacroix because they're not stationary, they can move. It's a very dynamic game in that sense. So Lacroix doesn't actually rank that highly. In fact, most people in late game or in general don't use him at all. Early game, he's alright, but the only benefit I can see to having him leveled up or used is for dungeons, for the vampire dungeons. But then again, you have much better heroes to use. This YouTuber also mentioned the fact that you can use Grimmer or Grimer. I have no idea how you want to pronounce it, and I have to say that is a good pick. He is great with his Thirst for Riches, which reduces time mining, which is very useful if you want to get lots of 15-minute mines in. Very good with Khalil, if you put them both on the same mining squad, because you get reduced mining, but also added effect of the stars. So the higher rank you have them, then the better. But also, for a beginner, this Blood Shield is amazing. 30% of his max health. You can get items and equipment to boost his health, which makes his shield even bigger. And if you boost his health regen, and his attack, his Blood Shield helps massively because he can regenerate his health. Or if you have a healer on your team, people will still be attacking him to reduce his shield. And then when it bursts, it deals damage and healing. So he is a great asset to teams early on. And if I was to suggest any of the two tanks, I suggest Grimmer and Khalil. Which brings me on to my next point. At the beginning of his video, he said he was not sure if Deva was going to be around. Yeah, she is going to be around for a while. She is given in the tutorial of the game to show you the different types of characters that you can have, as well as the fact that she is your first epic hero. So I suggest her for almost any team, but her role as a nuker can be replaced by others. You just have to find the hero tokens for the other characters. As you can see, I have her leveled up massively, mainly because she has been super useful, and because of her, I believe it is the passive Scorching Rift, where she splits her beams and attacks back row characters. So if you have her in back row, she'll deal damage to the first target in front of her, which will be probably a bruiser or a tank or an assassin of some sort, and then the ray will split off and attack the back row characters or any nearby bruisers and tanks, which just increases her overall damage. And yeah, it deals 30% of attack power, but a little bit of chip here and there is great. Plus, the chip also adds on Mark of Shards, which you can easily get by getting, 20? I believe it's 20 hero tokens, which means about 5 Path of Tenebris run-throughs, and then you will be able to rank her up to rank 4, which is very quick in comparison, and then she gets bonus damage for each of the shards applied. So if you have her in the back row, where she'll be dealing damage constantly, then she'll be dealing damage and then massive amount of damage on her ultimate. And I believe the fourth member mentioned was Bishop. Now, Bishop can be useful in some cases, but as a beginner character, he has that early grenade. And I believe the YouTuber in question said that Bishop is overall amazing because of this random ultimate that hits 4 different enemies. When in reality, it doesn't hit 4 different enemies. It hits 4 random enemy targets, and those targets can be the same target. Like if there is 3 people on the map, his ultimate is going to strike those 3, but hit one of them twice. And each dealing 80% attack power as damage. That's pretty good. It doesn't count as magic damage. It still counts as physical, which is a bit annoying to get around resistances, because armor is a massive thing. But the whole kapow, he said that these throwing grenades behind them to push them in towards you is great. It happens every 7 seconds and deals 100% of attack power, which is great. But you have to consider the fact that these matches, so to speak, they occur in probably 30 seconds or maybe less, so you'll get about 4 grenades thrown at most if you don't manage to kill them earlier, which, if they aren't already near you, or if your character hasn't moved closer towards them and you're all at a standstill, means that you are not building your team correctly, because you should be trying to aim for killing waves or opponent teams in less than 25 seconds, because you will not be able to sustain a reasonable team, I'd say. Is that a good thing to say? I don't know. I'm new to this whole recording and giving opinions. And how else can I mention the alternative to Lacroix? Because he said that you don't need a healer on your team, which is true. In some cases, you don't need to run a healer if you're fighting in camps or doing small waves on Chrysalis Forest, because you know there's only one wave of enemies, so if you go all out attack and have support from your guildmates, then you can forego having a healer on your team and just go for pure attack. But for an early game healer and a free-to-play healer, Altane is one of the best, because she heals based on her attack power. So if you're boosting her attack power, she will heal better. And then also, her next level of healing is she gives bonus health to 2 of the front line members. And it's the front line, which is where you have your tanks, your assassins. So if you want to see a good triangle, we'll just quickly move out of this. We'll go to a campaign. We're not focusing on actually doing any of this. So let's see, that's my current team for killing campaign levels. We'll just quickly get them all out. But let's say, for instance, you have Bersha, and then you have your healer right in the back, Altane. And if you have your tank, we'll put Khalil because he's the only one I can see at the moment. You'd want to put your tank in the middle. You can put Bersha there, and then Khalil there. And then you have these 2 with more health than they would have had before. And then you can put your nuker in the back, which is great. So that way they can deal damage. And then this spot over there, you could have a filler. One of the things I see people do is try to max out the amount of lines that appear on the screen. So they do that by doing this, and then they have, oh, I have StatMet. Stat. We'll call them stat. That's another few lines. Adding the lines, and look at that. There's lines connecting all of them. Boom. Connect 5. It's generally weaker. if you just go for the people with lines. You want to go for people with attacking ability. So having this single bonus to health is great, and then you pair it with someone else who can deal damage, or you go for the ultimate healer in general, which is Voss, which provides passive regen. She's a good mid-game healer and late game. You'll get her eventually, but for the most part I'm trying to stick to the commons that everyone can get. Now, he said that he didn't like Dorian or mention Dorian over Bersha, but the thing is, Dorian's ability is pretty handy for PvP if you're into that, because the Huntsman's Grasp, which once per battle, when he gets hit, he hooks in and drags the farthest enemy away. As you can see from the little team builder I did earlier, I put my healer and my nuker in the back. If he pulls them into the middle where with all the tanks and bruisers, they're gonna get really messed up, maybe killed or damaged heavily, to the point where they'll become unusable. And it's a great strategy to use, and a better zoning tactic than waiting for Bishop's grenades. Because also, he deals bleed from his Hunter's Dance, which deals massive amounts of damage, increases his own attack speed for the next 4 seconds, and applies bleed, which is similar to poison, which is damage over time. And currently, at the moment, damage over time effects like bleed or poison still tick when other characters are doing their animations. So if you apply bleed to someone that you've just pulled in and they try to do their healing ultimate, they'll be taking bleed damage on themselves, which is very useful in the long term, I guess, which is why Dorian is quite good. I don't have him leveled up because I didn't realize this until much later, when another guild attacked me with a Dorian, as well as seeing Dorian mess up plenty of my guildmates in camps, in Chrysalis forts, and in cities. Now, as you can see, I've got all these other characters as well, which means I have somewhat of a wide selection to pick from. And in an early game, you don't have such a wide selection. But also, you'll notice that the characters I use the most are leveled up higher than the rest. You see, my Deva, which I put on my main team, is higher. But that just comes down to preference if you want to balance it out, because I've been told I have a somewhat balanced approach. But if you want to balance out your team, that's fine. If you want to focus on your main team, that's fine. But what you want to do is pick good heroes. Not this one. Not this one at all. Thank you for listening. I'll see you guys around.